Good morning. Today is Wednesday, March the 25th. Today is Wednesday, and when I woke up, I had that old Geico commercial. Remember the camel? And he goes, Mike, 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 it's Hope Day. Now, I know this is not a typical week, and many of us are working from home with the new orders from the governor being set in place, that many of us are longing to go back to life the way that it was just, 2 or 3 weeks ago. We'll get back there, my friends. We'll get back to life the way we have enjoyed it, and all those blessings that I think we took for granted and we just can't wait to enjoy again. But right now, today, the coming days and the coming weeks, we need to hunker down. We need to stay home. We need to keep each other safe. So keep staying home. I know sometimes it can be hard, but we're doing the right thing as we pull together. Now this morning, as I was trying to think about what devotion I wanted to lift up for you, I thought of the very end of the Gospel of John, the very, very last verse in John's Gospel. John is my favorite Gospel because John is unique in many ways from Matthew, Mark, and Luke. Sometimes Matthew, Mark, and Luke are called the synoptic Gospels, and John lifts up a lot of different stories and miracles and teachings that are not found in the other three Gospels. But the very end of John's Gospel has, I find, very fascinating words, and you may have never heard them because we don't typically hear them in church. They don't typically come up in our lectionary readings or anything like that. So it might be that you've never heard these verses before, but the very, very last verse in John's Gospel, I'll read for you John 21, verse 25, where John says, "There are also many other things that Jesus did. If every one of them were written down, I suppose that the world itself could not contain the books that would be written." I love that. You know, John is saying, I wrote down what I felt was most important. And John writes down what he'll call signs of Jesus. And there are 7 signs of Jesus. And John lifts these up as proof that Jesus was the Christ. He was the Messiah. And these signs, people would have known about them, and anybody could dispute them, but they were not able to. Think about the wedding at Cana. Do you remember what Jesus did there? He takes water and turns it into wine. Or when Jesus walks on water in the Sea of Galilee. Or when Jesus raises Lazarus from the dead after Lazarus had been in the tomb for 4 days. And at the very end of John's Gospel, John says, and he writes, that there are so many more things that I could have included in my Gospels. All the teachings, all the miracles, the amazing things that John must have experienced in the 3 years that he spent with Jesus. In fact, John goes on to say that if he could have and would have wrote all of them down, that could not have contained the books. Let me say that one more time, I'm sorry. If every one of them were written down, I suppose that the world itself could not contain the books that would be written. I love that there's so much. I always wonder, what else is there about Jesus' life? And I'm convinced that one day I'll hear about them. I'm convinced that one day we'll hear about so many more stories and miracles in Jesus' life. I'm convinced that, that day we'll be in heaven. And I picture it kind of as though we'll be in a Bible study class. And it won't be a pastor leading it. It won't be one of you leading it, but it'll be Jesus himself leading the class. And I can't wait to hear about those stories, Jesus here on earth. Now my homework, or maybe better off, my suggestion for you today, we're living in very unique days. trying days, days filled with a lot of anxiety, and I'm convinced these are days that in the future, historians and people, when they look back at our generation, the early 2000s, that the weeks and the months that we're living in right now, they will be important, that historians will lift up these very moments that we're in right now, and they will analyze them. They will look at how we as a society got through them. They'll look at how the world really came to a stop, and the churches closed and the schools closed, and they'll probably show pictures of the toilet paper being completely gone, and future students sitting in high school will learn about these days, and we'll study them similarly to how we learn about different parts of our history, the Civil War or World War II or the civil rights, and I don't know how important these days will be in the ranking of these different events, but I think we're living in important days. And so my suggestion to you, and this is not, you don't have to do this, but if you are willing and able, I think it would be neat for you to start a journal or to start a diary or start jotting down what's going on in your life right now. What have you experienced? What's going on inside of you? Are you calm? Are you filled with fear? What have you seen? What's going on in your family right now, in your church right now? And I would also suggest that you handwrite this, that you don't type it, because I think it's more meaningful when you see people's actual handwriting, and I think it gives you a better taste and a better feel for their life, which sounds strange when you just see handwriting, but I do think it's more meaningful when you read handwriting. I believe that maybe your future descendants will find this deeply meaningful. The things that my great-grandma or my great-grandpa went through in 2020, and they'll dig these up, or maybe even future classrooms will look at these. So that is my suggestion. We're continuing to be in the midst of these very difficult days. Please stay hunkered down. It's not only for yourself, but it's for our community, and it's for the vulnerable people in our community, that we need to keep this virus in check. Now, one final point of note. My Sunday message from this last week, I had noted that Thursday, as in tomorrow, I invite you to stop by and pick up a blue hymnal. With the most recent governor's orders, we're not able to do that anymore, though. The church has been shut down along with a lot of other things. However, this Sunday, we're going to hold worship. We're still going to worship. We're going to do it online, very similar to what we did this last Sunday. And the hymns, rather than singing out of our blue hymnal, I'm going to try and find some hymns that are in the public domain, meaning that I can include a link. I can include some material that you can pull up on your computer and you can print off and you can sing from home if you want. But thank you for showing up this morning. Today, I hope you enjoyed the devotion. May God continue to keep you safe and healthy, and I hope to see you back again tomorrow. God bless.